Well, thank you all for coming. I know that this is not the easiest topic to talk about, and actually a couple of people have asked me, why on earth would you want to talk about this? And there are several reasons for that. The first is because this whole experience challenged my trust in my intuition, which was, for me, my touchstone. It was the thing I always went to. And, somewhere inside yourself, you always know. And it just crushed that for me. So it was a big deal in that respect. Also because people have an amazing ability to heal, and often we forget that. And the third reason is for other parents who are maybe going through something similar, who need to hear that what you're feeling is completely normal, and anyone in your position would be feeling the exact same thing. So this is what Zoe looked like the first time I got to see her after she was born. I did about 14 hours of labor previous to the emergency C-section. Wish I had known that. The funny story about her being born is that the doctor pulled her out of me, lifted her up, was looking straight at her and said, "It's a boy." "Oh no, it's a girl." "What are you looking at?" So she had the cord wrapped around both ankles, as most of you know, and that caused some pretty severe oxygen deprivation. But I knew three things: that she was beautiful, that she's a fighter, and that she would be okay. So this is her at Sick Kids Hospital. She was cooled for 3 days. It's actually so effective at decreasing inflammation in the brain that every child that's suspected of brain damage has a 3-day cooling period. So she was basically naked and cold for the first 3 days of her life. As you can see, she's intubated, so she was having some assisted breathing, and she was having many, many seizures because of the brain damage. So they tried her many drugs to figure out what would work in order to stabilize her in that respect. By week 1, we had the MRI results, which were pretty devastating. It was brain damage everywhere. They usher you into the little room and sit you down and close the door and make sure they have the social worker and everybody, just in case you go insane, start breaking things. And it just wasn't good. There was there's not a lot of hope there, and we were given options to actually withdraw fluids and let her pass peacefully, as they put it. So not much options there. And in those moments when you're told you're given bad news, there's that resistance where the part of you that knows that she's going to be okay, you forget that part because they drill it into you over and over and over again until you forget. So I actually, after enough days, I forgot. So this is week 2. We're actually taking her out of the room here for the first time, which was a happy day. We removed the breathing tube. 90% of kids don't survive that, but she did. Her seizures were under control, and to everyone's surprise, she actually drank 2 bottles of milk, which was amazing, and actually signaled her release from the hospital on a palliative care program. So we were told that 8 to 12 weeks after birth, we would start to see evidence of brain damage. That's where, when a child is born, the brainstem is in charge. After 8 to 12 weeks, the higher cortical areas become in charge, and that's when you start to see evidence of brain damage. So, pretty scary at that point. Your child that looks perfect and beautiful may not continue to be this perfect and beautiful thing. This was her at her first pediatric specialist appointment. She is unbathed and just filthy. Still getting used to motherhood. She had some strong reflexes, but some of them, her neck was very, very weak. So I don't know if any of you have children that were the test where you pull the child out from a lying position by their arms, and they're supposed to lift up their head. She just was very weak, and we knew that and we knew at that point that this wasn't good. The doctor's looking at me like, this is pretty weak. This is not good. So we got home. I got home that day and was obviously devastated, but it was like, okay, head out of the clouds. You know muscle activation techniques. Why don't you try some of that on her? You know, I had been doing lots and lots of Reiki healing, probably too much. So I decided to, she was sleeping on my shoulder like this, and I just decided I would start, you know, treating the back of her neck. And to my surprise, she just flung her head up, like as if I had flipped a switch. And then she did that 2 more times. And, you know, I don't think it was so much the MAT as much as me saying, I'm gonna be there for you, like, let's do this. And her saying, I'm in. So to me, that was the start of her getting stronger. And by the second appointment, the doctor looked at her reflexes and said, you know what? There's another little boy with this amount of damage, and he's perfectly fine. And 10% of kids with this much brain damage are absolutely fine. They have little issues here and there, but they're not, you know, in wheelchairs and G-tubes and all the rest of it. So a regular day for Zoe would be a lot of, obviously I inundated her with Reiki and MAT. And then we would do crisscross exercises. Crisscross exercises stimulate the right brain to talk to the left brain. So we had little like workout sessions. I'd lay her on my bed and do the knee up and the crisscross and all sorts of things. I don't even know. And also her left side, she wasn't really moving her left side. She kind of had her left arm glued, and she would do a bunch of stuff on her right side. So we took all of her toys, you know this little gadget here? We put all of her toys on the left side. So she had nothing to play with on her right, so it forced her to move her left arm around. And, you know, by the time we went back to sick kids, they were very impressed with the amount of brain plasticity that she had. This is her at 6 months and her first birthday. And like I said, at Sick Kids 18 months, she was called a miracle by the occupational therapist, who asked me to put a bunch of videos together so she could show them to the doctors and say, see, this is the MRI and here's the child, like, get it through your head. So thank God for people like that. She was walking unassisted, she was reaching her milestones, a few months behind, but she was reaching them. And, you know, talking up a storm, she still will not stop. So this list right here is the amount of specialists and appointments and things that you have to go to when you have a child with special needs. A lot of these people just look at her and, okay, so we'll see you again. Like, it's not like you're getting this one-on-one specialized therapy. If she really needed something, she would get it. But a lot of it is a lot of time, a lot of energy, and just feeling like you're judging my child again, right? It's just another, that's really hard on a mother, the constant evaluations and the constant measuring. So I call these the unusual suspects, because not everyone has a grandmother who's a lay nun who has the whole convent praying for you, but hey, that works.
It's true. 200 nuns.
200 nuns.
Yeah.
Obviously, I already talked about a couple of those. Our naturopath, who not only deals with the nutritional aspect of what Zoe needed, but also the energetic aspect of what she needed, which is such a rare combination in somebody. You know, I found a posturologist who took brain gym exercises that are meant to stimulate your brain and actually made them easier so that she could do them as an infant. So we did some of that for a couple months, and now we're trying to get her to do the actual brain gym stuff. So that's really good. The brain is plastic. It can learn, you know, keep your child stimulated. And then there's the Annette Bignell method, which it's quite involved. There's several hours a week for a whole month straight, and we never did it, but I think it would have been helpful how we really needed it. I'd like to throw a couple of her hilarity in there. So a lot of people ask me, you know, what did you do? And can you tell me and write it all down and tell me what you did? And we did what any other parent would do. I may know about a couple extra things because of my field, but I basically just allowed her to do her thing, and her thing was to heal herself. And so we have to give her credit. So how's she doing now? You've all seen her. She's got, you know, a little bit of a gait issue. She wears an ankle foot orthotic. She's got a right hearing aid. She got an eye tracking issue. Just a bunch of little things that we have to monitor and take care of. But for all intents and purposes, she's a regular kid. She causes just as much trouble. She's just as cute. And one thing that's really important for her is clearing her energy. So as some of you know, I've been doing Qigong for the last 6 months to a year, and it's always been my personal thing. But lately I've set her in the room and I make her sit in front of me so that she can feel the benefits of it, and it grounds her. She starts releasing a little bit, she starts yawning, she calms down, and it's just helped her to focus on things. You know, a lot of people know that she's a whirling tornado or a Tasmanian devil, and so it's calmed that down, because that part is just, it's exhausting, to say the least. And she can tie a knot, crowning achievement. So anyone that's had anything similar to this knows that having this experience literally digs a hole in your heart. There's no two ways around it. But in healing that hole, it'll be filled with more compassion and more love. And I don't think I would ever trade that for anything. It's also reinstated my trust in my intuition. I was right, and they were wrong. And you know, something important to remember is that it's really hard to believe in miracles when everyone around you is saying and giving you worst case scenarios. And when my healer said miracles happen too, I wish I could have believed just an ounce of that. So remember that if you're ever going through anything similar like this. And thank you all for coming.